On September 11th, I was a flight attendant for Northwest Airlines. I had been flying for many years prior to that day. I was home that day. I normally would fly weekends. I received a phone call from a very close friend of mine who was a flight attendant for American. He asked me to turn the TV on, and we both were watching the first building after it was struck by the first plane. As we were watching it, we saw the second plane hit. Also, during this period of time that my friend and I were on the phone, he asked me where my sister was because she just took a job in New York City 2 weeks prior to the attacks. So for about 2.5 hours, I couldn't get through to her. The lines were busy, and those were the longest 2.5 hours of my life, not knowing where she was. Finally, I was able to get through and found out that she was in Times Square at the Muse Hotel. She was able to go home that night. It was a long walk for her. She said there was smoke and ash in the air, and smoke, she'll never forget the smell of that smoke. After September 11th, I was scheduled to go out on a flight on, I believe, that Thursday. My children were upset. My husband was upset. They discouraged me from going back that week. However, my feelings were that we can't show our fear. And I was willing to do whatever it took to go back to work. This was an industry I loved. I also knew that I had to be a part of the comeback. We took off probably about an hour late, I think, to Detroit, and it ended up we were the first flight that departed that morning for Northwest. After takeoff, it was the most surreal, quiet, unbelievable thing after all the years I had flown that I've ever experienced. Everyone literally sat there looking straight ahead in silence. I didn't feel afraid. I was more in awe of that silence. With the big engines roaring and still that silence was something that I'll never forget. The experience changed me because I never underestimate anything. I never underestimate what can happen, the unimaginable. I'm just definitely much more aware of what's happening around me. And I also realize that life is incredibly precious.